We have visited Colorado a few times and have made some major mistakes. We're Matt and Cheryl, and we write guides to help people travel to the West. And today, we want to help you learn from our disastrous experiences how to have a better trip to Colorado.
Okay, so the first mistake is visiting too early in the season. So Colorado is really high. The mountains, of course, are high, so that means snow sticks around for a long time on the roads and the trails. And if you visit in May or June, you could find that some of the roads are closed and a lot of the trails are still muddy. So we would prefer to avoid visiting in May or June.
You know, one of our trips here, we came at the very end of June, beginning of July, and we were in Rocky Mountain National Park, and we were really excited to drive the Old Fall River Road, and we found that it was closed. We were super disappointed, and so every day we were kind of checking the park's alerts to see if it was open, and we were so excited. On the 4th of July, they finally opened the road and we got to drive it. In Utah, it had been nice weather for May and June, but in Colorado, summer comes a little bit later.
So our take is the best months to visit Colorado are July, August, and September. And then, of course, if you're a skier, you'd be coming in the winter. But those are the best months to visit in the summer when you can do really, really fun things and access all the roads and all the trails.
All right, the next mistake is not getting over. When you visit Colorado, it's kind of hard to not be taken back by the amazing scenery. You are going up and down hills, there's steep canyons on the side, there's switchbacks, and Colorado has actually made a law that if you have more than 5 people behind you, you need to pull over. And so that's okay if you want to drive slow and look at the scenery, or if you need to drive slow because you're scared, and there are legit some scary roads in Colorado, that's okay to do that. Just know that there is a law. If there's 5 people behind you, you need to pull over.
Okay, while I was editing this video, I thought I would double check to make sure we were accurate on what Cheryl just stated about the 5-car rule. And as far as I can tell, Colorado Revised Statutes Title 42-4-1103 prohibits drivers from operating their vehicles on any highway at such a slow speed as to impede or block the normal and reasonable forward movement of traffic. And it does require you to pull off the roadway and let drivers by. So there is not a 5-car rule as far as I can tell. There is an obligation to pull over and let traffic go. A lot of Coloradans on the comments here on this post that I'm on say a lot of people still won't pull over because they say, I am driving the safe speed limit here and these people can deal with it. Colorado people get very frustrated by that. So pull over, let them all by so you don't have a big line behind you.
Okay, next up is to not underestimate the altitude. So a lady in Breckenridge at the Breckenridge Visitor Center once told us that the most common question or concern that she gets from visitors is that they feel a little lightheaded or dizzy due to the altitude. And we're not trying to scare you here because most people, it seems like they visit and there's no problem at all. But the general rule of thumb from what we've heard from people is give it about 2 days without drinking alcohol, because drinking alcohol at this elevation
It's a little more potent.
Yeah, it's a little more potent. And then also just drink a lot of water. So there was another couple that we met on the Pikes Peak Road as we were driving up to the top of Pikes Peak, which is over 14,000 feet. And we said, hey, do you have any tips for people? Because they were from Indianapolis. And we said, do you have any tips for people coming to Colorado? Because we're always trying to get different viewpoints from people. And they said, just drink a lot of water. I was surprised, actually a little surprised by that. They were younger but they were drinking, they found themselves thirsty a lot. So.
Well, I also think that a lot of times people will think, well, I'm athletic, I run, I hike, altitude isn't going to get to me, but it really doesn't discriminate. And when Matt and I went and drove to the top of Mount Blue Sky, that's a 14er, a peak that's 14,000 feet, I was surprised how much it was affecting me. Like, I was a little lightheaded, I had a headache, my stomach hurt, and I could not even talk on the video. My brain was just not even there. It was crazy. I cannot talk, Matt.
You okay? You're fine. Yeah, so we're not trying to scare you. I have never seen anybody have that big of a problem, but some people do, and so you need to be aware of it, okay? Next mistake is visiting attractions that are near Denver and Colorado Springs on the weekend. Okay, so just the basic layout of Colorado is that it's flat in the east, and then boom, the Rocky Mountains hit. And for the rest of the western part of the state, it's all Rockies and mountains. And so that where they hit there is called the Front Range, and that's where the population centers are. That's Denver and Colorado Springs and big metropolis type area. Okay, so there's a lot of people that live on the Front Range, and on the weekends they run to the mountains to play. So if you can avoid visiting on the weekend those Front Range attractions, I would try to do that. because the
Yes.
roads will get just packed. And I just learned on this trip, leaf peeping has become like a huge thing here in the fall. And so some of these roads are like 2 or 3 hour waits just packed on these mountain roads with leaf peepers.
And we noticed one time when we were in Rocky Mountain National Park, they have their timed entry reservations, which is supposed to alleviate a lot of this crowding. But we'd been visiting throughout the week. It was just fine on like Wednesday, Thursday. But then when we came into the park on Saturday, we had a hard time finding a parking spot. So I think you'll have a much better trip to these mountains if you can go in on a weekday. And if you totally dig Colorado and want to know more about it, we have a whole Colorado playlist that talks about national parks and the cities. We have a website, we'reintherockies.com, that we write about the national parks here and the cities too. And we even have travel guides all about Colorado.
Next mistake is just staying on the Front Range. So there are tons of attractions along the Front Range. Even Rocky Mountain National Park is not too far away. Pikes Peak is near Colorado Springs. There's a lot of pretty cool things you can do near Denver and Colorado Springs as almost day trips. However, if that's kind of all you do when you come to Colorado, you are really kind of missing out on what I think are the best parts of Colorado, is getting deep into the mountains. My favorite area in Colorado is the San Juan Mountains in the southwestern corner. It has some of my favorite mountain towns, Ouray and Telluride, and just gorgeous, gorgeous peaks. And so if you can get away from the Front Range, you'll find a little bit less crowded experience. And you're gonna really experience Colorado, which is just driving through. Everywhere you drive is a scenic drive through just wide sweeping valleys, up overpasses. It's really incredible, and it's just like, for me, quintessential Rocky Mountains.
All right, the next mistake is believing that the best things to see in Colorado are the national parks. Don't misunderstand. We think that the 4 national parks in Colorado are unbelievable. We've been to all of them and we love all of them. But if you only go to those national parks, you're missing some really great things. For example, Royal Gorge is pretty cool because it's another great canyon with a river, but there's a big, one of the highest suspension bridges in the world you can walk across. There's a train that goes through the canyon, and there's like some fun kid activities.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the cities, like the ski towns, Breckenridge, Telluride. I mean, just like we were in Telluride yesterday. We loved riding that free gondola. We love Aspen. We love Glenwood Springs. There's an amusement park on the mountain there. I mean, there is just no shortage of awesomeness outside of the national parks. And a lot of these cool places are run by the cities, like Garden of the Gods. I mean, it's just something else.
Tons of, fun stuff that you can do outside the parks with train rides, hot springs, zip lines, whitewater rafting, all that type of stuff. But then also, some of the scenery is equal to anything you'll see in a national park. So be aware, you could be doing a national park road trip through the state: Rocky Mountain, Black Canyon of the Gunnison, Mesa Verde National Park, and Great Sand Dunes. Those are the 4 in the state. But then make sure to hit some things in between because they're really cool.
And on that note, don't underestimate the distances these things are between each other. So we drove here from Utah and we've been here for 10 days and we've put about 2,000 miles on our car.
Obviously, you can use Google Maps to kind of help you get from point A to point B and calculate the distance, the times. But like if you're thinking, okay, something is 40 miles away, 40 miles away is different in Colorado, okay? Because again, once you get into the mountains, everything is a windy drive. There's no straight roads almost, and you're going over mountain passes or through valleys. So it takes a little longer to get around the state for sure.
All right. The next one is believing the weather forecast, especially when you're on the mountains. So we're here at the Black Canyon of the Gunnison in October. It's October 2nd, and it's a beautiful sunny day. And a lot of times that's what the weather forecast will say, but we've had a couple of times when we've been driving up peaks, whether it was the Trail Ridge Road or even Mount Blue Sky, where when we were on the Trail Ridge Road at Estes Park, beautiful sunny, but as we got up there, we got pelted with a hailstorm. I mean, the wind was blowing so hard, the hail was going horizontal. It was miserable. But then by the time we drove down the mountain, it was sunny again.
Yep. Now, the general rule around here is to get off the peak by noon. That's what they say because you want to avoid some of those afternoon thunder showers up on the peaks. Now, we violated that rule several times and had several great experiences in the afternoon up on the mountain peaks. We were up on Pikes Peak this time in the afternoon and it was just fine, but we've also been hit a little bit. We did the Durango to Silverton train a couple days ago, and it takes you up into the mountains to this really cool mountain town called Silverton that it has kind of an Old West thing going on there. And while we were there for 2 hours eating and walking around. A little wind burst, blew in, and blew dirt all over the place because they have dirt roads and people are getting pelted and stuff. And it just kind of comes in pretty quickly and then it blows over. That's the other thing to know. It blows over pretty quickly usually. So anyway, just be prepared with layers and things like that.
Next mistake is to not gear down. As you are going down these canyons, do not burn up your brakes. We've been smelling brakes all week. Just put your car in a lower gear and you're going to be A-okay.
Yeah. Don't ride those things all the way down. One of the most common mistakes that first-timers make, people that aren't used to the mountains anyway, is not realizing that they are burning up their brakes. In fact, we were coming down from Pikes Peak, and they have actually a little station there where they check the heat on your brakes. They check to see how hot they are. And if they're too hot, they will make you pull over and stay there for a while until they cool down. And I thought that was a pretty cool safety measure, actually, because if they get too hot, then they're not going to work at some point. So we have seen that or have smelt that a lot of times where they're burned up. So, yep, gear down when you're going down the hills.
All right. This next one is so painful to talk about. We have spent, I'd say, around 30 nights in Colorado hotels throughout the course of our life.
Or more.
Or more. It's been a lot. And we travel a lot. I mean, 70 days a year some years. But I don't think I've ever stayed in as dumpiest hotels as I have in Colorado. And it's just painful because the other flip side to it is these aren't cheap hotels. So my advice to you is, first of all, book early. Right now, October, if I'm going there, I would start booking now because the rates are not going to go up for next year until next year. So you can get those good rates now, and there's a lot of availability. And then, be a studious student. Look at those ratings, look at pictures, read the reviews, and just make sure that you're going to be staying in a place that's comfortable for you.
We've stayed in a lot of dives in Colorado. It's a little more expensive than what we like. We don't like to spend that much money on it, so we've been trying to find these budget ones, and they've just been dives. So you might just have to plan on spending a little bit more money on your lodging if you don't want to stay in a dive. Okay, let's now talk about pronunciation. So you can pronounce things however you want. I don't care. I'm not a pronunciation Nazi, but you might want to know some of the local pronunciations. So first of all, Colorado, they pronounce Colorado as in it's rad, not Colorado. Okay, and Coloradans are Coloradans, not Coloradoans. That's typically how they say it. There's a town, a pretty popular little town called Buena Vista, but it looks like Buena Vista. It should be pronounced Buena Vista anyway, but they pronounce it Buena Vista. There doesn't seem to be any real logical, how they decide to pronounce these things. And then there's a big city called Colorado Springs. That's where the Air Force Academy is. Most Coloradans just refer to it as the Springs.
Oh yeah, and then there's a city, Canyon, which looks like Cannon.
Cannon.
And they have a gorge there, which makes it even more confusing.
Yeah, not a canyon, but a gorge. Anyway, it has a little squiggly over the end to make it canyon, the old school type thing. So.
Okay, next mistake are train rides. Now, first of all, you'd be mistaken to not go on a train ride. There's tons of great train rides in Colorado. We've been on 3 on this trip alone, and we love them. But when you go to book your train tickets, there's all sorts of classes of cars, and I think a lot of times we'll research which type of car I want to be in. But the most important part of booking your tickets is making sure that you are on the scenic side of the train. Mm-hmm. On this trip, we have done Pikes Peak train, we have done the Durango Silverton train, and we've done the Royal Gorge train. And all 3 of those trains have a side that has way better views than the other ones. Like one side you're looking into a canyon and a river, and the other side you have a bunch of rocks on you. And and some trains do turn around, others just go forward and back. And so you want to make sure you do your research before you get your tickets to make sure that you have the most scenic ride you can on the train.
I would also say, yeah, like you said, it's a mistake not to go on a train ride, only because I've started to realize we're not train people, but we've been doing more of these train rides, and I'm kind of realizing there aren't all that many around. Like there's a lot of states that don't have them at all. And Colorado has several. They're like 6 to 8 trains, something like that. So try to mix that into your schedule if you're visiting Colorado. They're pretty fun. They're kind of an old-timey thing. That can be a way to get some variety for your trip there and something fairly unique. Okay, we're shooting this video as part of a big road trip that we are on through Colorado. We have made several videos about Colorado. Next one to check out is Colorado 101, all about the great state of Colorado. Thanks for watching.